Okay, how you doing? So today I want to talk about the steps to recovery. Hopefully you've gotten one of Dr. John Sarno's books, either Healing Back Pain or the Mind-Body Prescription, and hopefully you've read them. And I just want to talk about what the steps to recovery are. But first, you've got to understand, I'm not a doctor. Before you do anything, you got to go to a doctor. You got to get checked out. Make sure your symptoms are not caused by any serious disease. So that's number one. You are completely responsible for all of your actions. So that's my disclaimer. Also be aware that some doctors will attribute symptoms to causes that are benign. And for that, again, I recommend that you read Dr. John Sarno's books, especially Healing Back Pain. Lists a lot of diagnoses that are not really causing the symptoms, but doctors often attribute the symptoms to those diagnoses because they have nothing else to attribute them to. They don't have any other answers. Okay, so what can you do to recover? What should you do to recover? Well, number one, the very first thing that's important is that you understand what's going on. That you read the books, that you listen to what I'm saying, that you comprehend the theory of what's happening with you, unconscious emotions causing symptoms, pain, fatigue, brain fog, etc. Just understanding that is powerful because now how you think about pain, how you think about fatigue, how you think about all the other symptoms, it changes. You no longer think of the pain and the fatigue as danger symptoms, symptoms that you're broken, symptoms that there is some terrible, terrible thing going on with your body. You can now understand that it is just a distraction that your brain is using. The brain can initiate symptoms that feel horrible, and yet they're not dangerous. So just knowing what's going on is going to help you big time. So that's number one. Okay, so the next thing is that you got to get back to doing activities. Now, you're not going to be able to just jump in and do everything all at once because you've built up a lot of fear around doing activities because you don't want to exacerbate your condition. You don't want to experience any more pain, any more fatigue, and you don't want to damage yourself. So now with this newfound understanding, you understand that you can't hurt yourself by doing this. Again, disclaimer, get checked out by a doctor first. But if you know you have TMS, which is the mind-body syndrome, which is the diagnosis that John Sarno describes in his books, you know you can't hurt yourself. So the only thing in the way of you getting on with normal activity is fear, and that's normal, and you're going to have to expose yourself bit by bit and decondition yourself from those fears. Now, as you do this, we're talking about physical activity, mental activity, watching TV if you're avoiding television, going for a walk, working out, exercising, whatever. Wherever you're at now, whatever level of activity you're at, start increasing it. Only if you comprehend the diagnosis and if you accept the diagnosis. Only if when you are faced with the fear that you're going to hurt yourself, you know with certainty that even though you're having these feelings, this fear, you know that it is unfounded, that you can proceed safely. If you don't know that, if it hasn't sunk in yet, if you don't believe it yet, if it doesn't make sense to you yet, you need to continue reading, rereading, educating yourself, you know, massaging it into your brain bit by bit. But once that's done, you can start going on with activity and you can Do it all the while reassuring yourself. I'm constantly going in my head. Whenever I do more activity than I've done lately, I get these anxious feelings, these fearful feelings in my body, and I consciously remind myself all the time, you're absolutely safe. This activity is safe. You are okay, etc. So you're always having the self-talk communicating to yourself that you are safe, you are okay. Another thing you need to do is you need to stop all treatments that are concerned with the body. Now, if you are on any medications, you obviously have to consult with your physician. Don't just discontinue any medications without talking to your physician. But basically, the idea is that if you're taking any supplements, that you think are going to fix you, it's just communicating the wrong thing to your brain, and there aren't any supplements that can help you. If you're constantly fussing with your diet, if you're obsessed with your diet, if only I add a little bit of this and subtract all of that and avoid this, and you're really not on the right track. There are people that have allergies, there are things like that, but most of the fussing around that people like us do with diets, it's obsessive, it's just another distraction, it's just another way to be focused on something being wrong in the body rather than the brain simply initiating symptoms to distract us. Now, I warn you, as you go into activity, sometimes the symptoms can diminish, sometimes they can increase. And if you panic at that time, you gonna be in trouble. So go in gradually, go in expecting that the symptoms can increase, and even if they increase, know that there is no danger there. Eventually it'll pass. It takes time, takes some months for all of this, for the fear conditioning to go away, and you're gonna have to go through some ups and downs, but it will go away. So this, what I've just described so far, can be enough for some people. But for most people, especially people like us who have a lot of symptoms, who have a whole host of symptoms, people with CFS, people with fibromyalgia, for us, we definitely need to delve into emotional issues. What's behind all these symptoms? What emotions, what life circumstances are generating symptoms for us? And the way you do that is you make a long list of things from three categories. One, early life experience, childhood, teenage years, maybe early adulthood. Just all of the experiences. If you even suspect a little bit they might have been in some way traumatic, it could be something really bad, but it doesn't have to be something like really, really bad. It could be just, getting yelled at or bullied or whatever. But, things like divorce and obviously all forms of abuse, sexual, physical, emotional. Anything like that, you're going to want to write it down. Just make a list of all things. So one category is early life experience. Another one is current stresses. What's going on at your job right now? What's going on in your relationships with family, with friends? Any kind of issues, just write it down, jot it down. And the third category is personality traits. Now you'll remember, perfectionism and goodism are the two personality traits that make people prone to these kinds of brain-generated symptoms. So you're going to want to write down you're going to want to write about your perfectionistic tendencies, if any, and your goodist tendencies, if any, and you're going to want to explore them. So now you've made a list of these from these three categories of all the issues. And over the next weeks and months, You're going to want to write a little bit every day. Take one issue and just write an essay about it. Get into your deepest thoughts, deepest feelings. Nobody has to read it. You can destroy it right after. You just don't worry about your grammar or your spelling or any of that. That's not important. The important thing is that you work out on paper physically, all these issues. If you don't like doing that, you can talk into a voice recorder. Kind of does the same thing. Just talking about your deepest feelings, deepest emotions, and just organizing them in your mind by doing that and processing them in this way. Okay, so that's something you're going to do a little bit every day for a while, for the next few months probably. And finally, this is not necessary for everybody, but you might consider seeing a psychotherapist who specializes in this sort of thing. I would say don't jump into doing that yet. Maybe work on things on your own first, and then see if maybe you want some help. So that's it for now. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.